Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome back to some dice throwing. This is some accessories video. This is a bunch of optional stuff you do not need to have to play the game. But if you're looking at upgrading your game, this is the video to kind of see what some of the stuff is. So we're going to look over the miniatures. I have Season 1 and 2. Also going to bring out the X-Men and Marvel ones and the Santa and Krampus ones as well from the other sets. That I got during the Kickstarters. I had to pick up all the other dice thrown before Kickstarters happened. Just so we can kind of use a comparison between them. We're also going to look over all the sleeves. I have all the sleeves for every single character that's currently out. While we're waiting for Outcast to show up and then eventually Vanguard. Plus all the new stuff. But yeah, we're going to take a look at all the sleeves and kind of just get what the pictures look like. In case you haven't really seen them on the box. And then the other really fun thing we're going to go over is the acrylic bits for Adventures Dice Throne. Now you might be like, oh, well, you're showing all this other cool stuff. What about the acrylics for the other sets? I've done videos on them for Seasons 1 and 2. And I did this stuff with Marvel when I did the Marvel or X-Men unboxings because they came with them. So yeah, but we find they finally released the ones for Adventures I've been waiting for. I had been debating for a long time of just rebuying Seasons 1 and 2 and trying pulling off parts, but there's a couple unique pieces that are exclusive to this. So you do get this on Board Game Geek. You get it through their website. It's very cool. I don't know if they're going to re-release somehow in the future to make it available for through their store now that they're switching up their models and how they're doing stuff. Because in case you're not familiar, mentioning the sleeves and stuff, and I will kind of point this out as we go through this talk about the sleeves and the acrylics and stuff in general, is Dice Throne's model is now changing for in the future. As far as we know, they're going to start releasing heroes as single packs. So instead of buying a bundle of 4 or a bundle of 8, you're going to buy it, or 2, or however they've been releasing them. I always buy them through Kickstarters or through the big box chest for 8. Kickstarters are usually 4 and 4. They're going to start releasing them as single hero packs, and then they'll have a separate accessory pack, which will have their sleeves, the acrylics for that character, their miniature for using for Dice Throne Adventures and for the X-Men missions, which we'll kind of look at, see how the miniatures look on there as well. And then they're supposed to have the promo cards in there as well. The Mythic Rare and the one promo card for them, as well as the randomizer. Normally, those have always been either a separate pack by themselves, or they've been included for free with the Kickstarter stuff as that special pack. Now, I know they're still planning on occasionally doing Kickstarter stuff as well, so I'm assuming what will happen then will be kind of like how Vanguard ended up being, is they will release the, like a box set with like maybe 4 heroes, or champions, however you want to call them, and then they will have the accessory packs separate. I know that some people are upset about this because some people only want the sleeves, some people only want the acrylics, some people don't care for the miniatures, some people only want the miniatures. And breaking all that stuff up and from different stuff to having it now being forced to get something you may not want. But that's the model they're going with from now on. And we'll see more of that when Vanguard actually gets shipped out sometime in the next year. The Kickstarter just ended as of me doing this video, so I won't get that for all. Outcast still has this stuff kind of mixed together in a special bundle. So we'll see how they go through that. But yeah, for the future, there's actually going to be done some heroes that are only released as single retail characters. I think the Alchemist is the next one to come out. First of all, let's look at the acrylics here, because this is like the only the brand new or the newest thing. The figures and sleeves have been out for a while. I just have only finally got to them. Alright, so we have a bunch of them. And I don't remember what all of them are off the top of my head, but they're all really cool. So let's see if we can open this box up from where I'm sitting. Drop all that stuff in there. So here's our tray of all of our acrylic token, or all our cardboard tokens. So we will be able to replace all of these, and I will do that off camera just to show how they fit. Always my concern about opening up these plastic things, but you can see they all fit in there very well. We have a couple extra spots in here. But I just want to show off what some of the acrylics look like versus why would you get one versus the other. So, for example, here are this, again, I don't remember what these are. Do we have the back of the book, which tells me what all the tokens are? Dominance token. So yeah, all the acrylic tokens are going to have kind of like a little sheen to them, which are kind of nice. Same physical size, pretty much. So let's try and scooch some of this stuff out of the way. Let me get a little bit better look at these. Ooh, and my camera's falling. So yeah, they're pretty much the same exact size, like that direction, but you can see there's definitely a thickness difference, which I think will make them easier to pick up off the table. So if I have to pick up my token, you know, it's still not terribly hard to pick up a big token there. Let me grab one of the round ones here. So if I have a round one like my parasite token over here, which is in one of these other bags. So there's my parasite token. I'm about to pick one of these up. Now again, I'm not using like the tips of my fingers. I'm just trying to pick it up without that. They're not always the easiest. Now, the acrylics are a little bit easier. Again, not 100%. But here's the thing is, I can dig my finger under this and kind of flip it up. Now, can I do that with this? There's not enough room for me to get my finger under there. Now, I can, of course, use my fingernail to pick them up. Just as easy, and that way they're kind of the same, but then you're always kind of like digging your fingernails into the side of the cardboard, and they're going to wear out over time. So basically the reason to get the acrylics is they look a little bit kind of cool with the little patterns on there, and the patterns are always different, so they're not like the exact same design every time. The black part is, but give me like the swirls in there are a little bit different, just depending on how they came out. And some are going to have swirls and some won't. Just depending on kind of how they are. But yeah, so they're really neat. I think they're going to be more durable in the long run as well. Because again, obviously, just I'm physically pushing on this. And it's not budging at all. Like, this is me actually using pressure. Now, if I did the same thing with this cardboard, I just barely doing it, I was already feeling it starting to bend. So, again, it's just the whole point of acrylic tokens is just to make the game just to up it a little bit better. Alright, so here's a layout of all the acrylic tokens. Now there's the exact same number, or there should be. I didn't physically double check everyone to see if I'm missing any. But there should be the same number of tokens. It seemed like there was pretty close. Again, unless there's like one or two errors. But just kind of get the idea of how many tokens are in this bag. So you're getting a lot. You're getting, you know, all the different ones. Plus, you can kind of see some of just the different colors and stylizations between each one. The 3 and 4 tokens and the 1 and 2s are still double-sided. Same thing with the CP tokens. So, like, they didn't undo that and make one of each, which is kind of nice. So they didn't end up with double amounts. The little dice up here look kind of good, kind of better, kind of not, because it's nice that they're a little bit thicker, but because they also have the extra border on them, means they don't fit together, because again, they're supposed to fit together to make a die. So I have it the wrong way, like that. And it's supposed to look like a dice, so now they're not going to... It's still going to fit together, it's still going to look like a die. It's just going to look a little bit different because they have that little border in between each one. Again, not that big of a deal. Let me see if I can zoom in on this a little bit better. So yeah, you see how it still looks like the die, you know. I guess this is probably supposed to be like this direction to make it look more square. I'm not for sure. So that one, I think, almost only fits one way. I can kind of go either way with it. So yeah, not too bad. Here's all the rest of the tokens. Little first strike one's a little bit nice there. I will say this, is that some of the images are sometimes, we looked at this, a little bit smaller, because they wanted to keep it on the same size token, but still have that border on them, on some of the ones that were pretty full. This was kind of nice because it actually lined it up a little bit nicer, so it's a little bit more even on the tile. Some of the images are a little bit more dull as well, but that's not that big of a deal. Kind of look at some of the other ones here. Another one that had some changes to it. Let me see if we can... maybe I'll just move these guys down for a bit. Get a little bit better angle on there. So this one actually changed a big deal. They went from a, again, full arc all the way around it to a shrunk down. Sorry, my camera has trouble getting... There we go. So I can see those two changed quite a bit. I mean, like, the image still stays the same, so you can tell what they are. This is the only one that didn't really change per se, but I just wanted to point this out, is that sometimes the swirlies can get pretty hectic in there, and they can kind of start disrupting the artwork a little bit. Unfortunately, that's just when they're trying to do dual color, especially this that had a dual color to begin with. Is I think they put a little extra in there. It doesn't happen to all of them, but it can happen to some of the ones with maybe a little bit more detail. Like this one here also got shrunk down so the white's not on the top half. But yeah, nothing like too terribly egregious. Plus the treasures look pretty cool with the pearlescence around the outside instead of the white. So the other thing we did want to show off is the tray. So I put all the acrylic tokens in there. Now, I actually had to go look up on the Board Game Geek site. They have a picture of how they think it should be relayed out, because I had to move some stuff around. Because these white ones are originally supposed to be up here. These guys are supposed to be down here, but some of these just won't fit normally. I like having these, the threes and fours and the ones and two in separate things, but they just weren't going to happen. So we do have a couple empty trays here because one was for the these, which I'm changing this up slightly how they had it, so we'll see if it works. They still want me to leave a bunch of these in here, have some here and some there, and I didn't like that. I don't like separating tokens out if I don't have to. And the same idea is I had some of these CP ones separated out, so I'm not sure all of these will fit in here anymore. So what they did was they took some of the single ones out and they put them over in here. Unfortunately, you just might have to do that. Same thing, they separated the treasure chest, which isn't that big of a deal. But just again, that added thickness in there just means you can't fit all of them in there at once. And these are upside down just so they stack a little bit better. Poison tokens also had to get one extra slot. Otherwise, for the most part, all the rest of them should fit back in there fairly nicely. And see if we can find all of them. Might have to, like, pick them up and, like, readjust them back in there. They're going to be fairly close. Where's my eyeball at? That was my eyeball. So I had one swirl token that goes over there. The hearts, those guys. We'll kind of drop all these back in. It's even this is like even some of these bigger ones. They're struggling to fit in there. I think what's going to end up having to happen, which they didn't really show that well on the on their website, was I think some of these are going to have to just get dumped into one of these other slots. And the outlaw one, and that one, and the blood token, which I don't have a spot for. So they might have gotten rid of some of the spots as well, because we had too many tokens. Oh no, we have all these guys. I'm just going to slide all those to the side. So yeah, in the end... Oh, and we have one more spider. Yeah, because this tray wasn't designed to have the acrylics in there. They were designed, I think, even after Adventures had been created. I think then they started coming out with them. See, as you can see, a lot of these I just don't think are going to fit in here correct. because they're probably just one token too many. So I think they kind of had in the pictures on the bottom of one of these was just some of your extra tokens. But if I try slapping this back in here, yeah, so I'm going to end up with big bulges right there. But even there, I think I'm going to run into some issues in some of these other small ones like these. If they're not laying exactly flat, they might not work. But what if I even just take out each one of these, see if these guys will lay a little bit flatter. And then it's like, okay, so this is fitting in there. I'm hitting something somewhere. Looks like this maybe. Some of these front tokens, as you can see on the bottom. It's not quite latching all the way in. So the only problem with that's going to be is if this doesn't latch all the way down, is if you try moving the box, there's a possibility this lid's going to come off and these tokens are going to go everywhere. So yeah, it's unfortunate because it's kind of like you're going to have to play around with getting some of these to lay in there just right, or doubling some of these up. Like this only has 2 spots, so maybe I need to do something like that. You know, or finicking around to get them to sit just right. But yeah, they're still great to have. And if you keep your game flat, I don't think this is going to be a problem. But if you're someone that likes to turn your box sideways, so you have it sitting like this direction instead, I think you're going to have issues, stuff shuffling around in there. Alright, so that's what we have for that. So then the next thing up we kind of want to take just a really quick look at are the sleeves. So I'm going to set these off to the side. Alright, so we have sleeves for these cards. What kind of sleeves do you need? Can you use regular sleeves? Do you have to have special sleeves? Nope, not really. So like I have a regular card. So here's the thing. Here's a standard card sleeve. Here are dice throne sleeves. They are actually smaller than standard card sleeves. So if I grab like a regular trading card, like I have Gundam here, these cards are actually a smaller size than regular standard playing cards, Yu-Gi-Oh! Magic, whatever. So you're probably, if you like to sleeve your games, you're probably going to want to buy sleeves. So do they make sleeve size for these? They actually do. I believe... Yeah, so they're just a little bit bigger than Uno cards. I have Uno card sleeves, so I don't know exactly what sleeve size you need for these. So there's the thing, is you're almost going to have to buy very specific specialized sleeves, or you can just buy them from the company if you want. Do you need to sleeve your cards? Obvious question every time people ask. It's up to you. I like to sleeve all my games, especially a game like this where you have to shuffle your cards a lot. You have to. I would say this might be one game you could maybe argue you could get away with not doing it, because outside of the promo card and the mythic card, which is again another promo card, the game is available on retail. There's not a ton of like Kickstarter exclusive cards and stuff until you start getting to like some of the adventure stuff where they have like promo adventure, or the X-Men mission cards that had some allies and stuff like that. They're a little bit different. But those are also, you know, you're not going to be maybe using them as much depending on how often you play them games or those modes. But for the standard ones, I feel like if I'm playing as the Barbarian from set 1 here, and my cards start to get damaged, I can always go back out and potentially rebuy another one. Now, again, it's always the word potential, because who knows that after they have 40 or 50 heroes out, they might decide to start discontinuing earlier ones, so it might be harder to get them. So these are the generic sleeves you can buy. So I have the Barbarian cards in here. I bought a bunch of these earlier to just get my sleeves done really quick before I decided, after getting X-Men and having the Marvel sleeves, and then getting the Vanguard and Outcast, which all came with sleeves in the Kickstarter bundles. I'm like, well, now half my cards have regular sleeves, half are going to have these. I just went and got the rest of them for myself. That way all my cards will have matching sleeves. Now, you could buy these and get these. They're a little bit cheaper. I don't think much cheaper than buying the separate packs. But then every single card could have just the same back. although you don't mix and match them. The only reason for, I would say, wanting these, and this is kind of an option for you, is these are extra cards from treasure cards or loot cards from Adventure. So if you play Adventure, or X-Men might have some cards like this as well, you might want to get these, because in that way, if you get the loot, you can now, oh, I got this card, you can shuffle it right in, it's going to make perfect sense. But then if all of them are sleeved with the same sleeve, you can mix and match them into any character's deck without an issue, like really quickly. Although I will mention though, so any one of these sleeve packs, so if we open up the Trant Ninja one here, so I don't know why for Season 1 they did 6 of the heroes in one and then 2 in the other. I think because these 2 characters were originally released late. But we have the cool artwork, but each one has 50 sleeves per character. I believe each character only has generally about 30-some cards, which we can easily find out because we just look at the bottom of their, or you look at their set number. So 30, of course these are probably all mixed up. But I think they have generally between like 30 and 33 cards. Somewhere in that vicinity. And I can't find the last number because, again, I grabbed one that I played with. So all the cards are out of order. Yeah, I think 32 might be his last one. 32 or 33 maybe with the Mythic. If we were using that one. Or the promo card, I should say, not Mythic. But the promo card might be card number 33. So yeah, you have 50 cards in here. So you have enough to sleeve an entire deck. And then the idea would be, I'm playing as the ninja, right? And then I'm playing the loot deck. So if I gain these 2 loot cards, I can sleeve them on the other 2 cards. But then that means at the end of every adventure game, you have to unsleeve those cards again. So per personal preference is either buy all the exact same generic sleeves or buy the ones with the cool pictures. Either you can keep re-sleeving your cards, or you can just sleeve buy enough extra for all the promo cards, the loot cards, and then just sleeve all them, and then you don't have to mix and match them anymore. It's not that big of a deal. Or you can do just like I'm going to probably do, is because Adventure is a cooperative game, I'm going to re-sleeve all my barbarians in their barbarian sleeve. So we'll find our barbarian here. So yeah, I will re-sleeve all the barbarians in the barbarian sleeve, and then I'm going to re-sleeve all of the loot cards in a generic one. Then what will end up happening is while I'm playing Adventure, if I gain loot, it's going to go into my deck. Yes, while I'm playing, I might be shuffling through and be able to see where I have a loot in my deck, but my thought is it's a cooperative game. So if I am cheating to dig through my deck, or restacking or reshuffling my deck again to get this card up towards the top, then I'm cheating anyhow. If I know a card's there, instead of just randomly shuffling it, if I'm specifically stacking that card, that's cheating. And if I'm going to cheat, why not just pull the card out and play it anyhow? So yeah, I'm just going to do that, and that way I can just shuffle all my loot cards back in, but then they're all still sleeved, and I don't have to re-sleeve cards over and over. But I have some extra cards here just in case they ever, like, update the decks or anything like that. So the second thing I want to show off before I start looking at the actual sleeves is, so here's the Barbarians kit. I have his acrylic tokens, which we just saw. I have some of the cardboard ones in here too, because there's not enough. There's enough space, so I just put all them in here with all my acrylic ones, but he gets all his cool acrylics. We have his combat guy, all that. I have all my cards sleeved in. You can see they fit in just fine into the 2 pouches. The thing I don't have in here anymore is the standee. If you had the standee, you could lay that in here as well if you want to keep all your standees with your characters. Standees, again, don't do anything for the regular game. They're for Adventure, or for the Marvel missions now. But that's where that ends up being. I'm going to just stick these back in the box here quick so I don't lose them. Actually, guys, So yeah, that's kind of what we can do. So we're going to take a look at all the sleeves really quick so you can kind of see what the pictures are. So you can sort of decide for yourself if it's something you may or may not want. I'm not going to pull all of these out, unfortunately, just because I'll have to do that later and I haven't lose them around ever. So we have the Barbarian from Season 1. We're going to have the, hopefully I remember all the names of all these characters, the Pyromancer. We have the Monk. We have the Moon Elf. We have the Thief. That was, it didn't tell me on here who they're for, does it? Nope. And then we have, I believe, the Paladin. And again, I might have the names wrong on some of these. I don't remember off the top of my head, unfortunately. And then we had the second pack which came out, which was Treant and the Ninja, which were the last two of Season 1. Then Season 2 came out with their full pack. So we'll grab that open. And we'll start looking at them. We have the Gunslinger, the Druid, not the Druid, the Huntress. Druid's in the new set. Is this the Baron? The Artificer? Oh, why am I not remembering? Is this the Valkyrie? A Samurai? Is she a Vampire? And the Cursed Pirate. And like I said at the top of the video, now all of the, from now on, these are all going to be mixed in an accessory pack with the acrylic tokens for that specific character. Instead of buying an acrylic package for Season 1, Season 2, or for like 4 character box, they're just going to have them mixed in with everything. As well as they're going to have them. Now, the question is, when and if they're going to make old packs like this for all the pre-existing characters and re-release them as singles. It sounds like that is the goal. So here's Krampus and Santa. It sounds like that is ultimately the goal to do, is to eventually re-release every character as a single with their own accessory pack. Then that way you can pick and choose which one of these 10 characters, or 8, 6, 17, 8, 16, 17, 18 characters we've just seen. You can pick and choose which one you want, plus the other 9 that we know that are coming out. And you can get whoever you want. So hopefully they're going to redo that, instead of having everything sold in big bundles. So the next pack we have is actually for adventures. So these are the 4 bosses. So we have the Fallen Gunslinger, the Fallen Monk, the Fallen Barbarian, and the King himself. So yeah, they have their own 42 cards only for these, but they don't have cards that get added into their decks. But this is so that way you can have them sleeved as well while you're facing off against them. Their decks can be shuffled up. So very cool. As long as we're looking down, we're looking at the marble ones. We have those as well. And I know the community is sometimes divided on the marble stuff. It's kind of either they love it or they don't. Unfortunately, so I think actually this is supposed to go this direction based on where the logo is. So we have Miles Morales Spider-Man. We have a Thor, Scarlet Witch, Black Widow, Loki, Black Panther, Doctor Strange, and Captain Marvel. So now, I personally love Marvel. I hope they come out with more, but it's like, I also hope they come out with, like, I could argue to be like, oh, it'd be cool to get, like, a little box set of Fantastic Four. But I'd also be like, I would love to see more X-Men. Obviously, I wouldn't mind more of them. Nightcrawler or Colossus or Magic. Some of the other outside ones. But I would also love to see more of the regular Marvel characters. Like, we don't have an Iron Man. We don't have Captain America. We don't have Hulk. But it's also the thing is trying to fit them into these style of games. And not make them play the exact same. But now here's even, and I guess this is kind of a dumb argument. Sorry for the tangent on this. But like, I honestly wouldn't almost even be terribly mad if you made Marvel characters that were like 80% the same as one of the other Dice Throne characters, or vice versa. Make brand new Dice Throne characters that are based off of the Marvel one. Like, make a magician character that plays almost identical to Doctor Strange. Even I don't care if it's the exact same as Doctor Strange. Just change the name of the abilities, maybe the symbols on the tokens if you don't have Eye of Agamotto. Same idea there is have like, Gambler, and then make the Gambler character make him Gambit, right? It'd be kind of cool to like, in the sense of, I could play just Dice Throne original type characters but have all the cool stuff that X-Men do, and vice versa. I wouldn't even mind if you took if you want to make some of the X-Men, and you want to borrow at least the majority of the abilities from the other guys. You might not copy them exactly, because they're pretty unique, but that still wouldn't bother me too much. Alright, for X-Men, let's jump through this quick. We have Psylocke. I keep knocking my thing over. We have Jean Grey Phoenix, Wolverine, Iceman, Rogue, Storm, Cyclops, Gambit, and then lastly we do have Deadpool, which was released in his own box. Now this is kind of what some people would wish they would have done if they're going to do singles, is done like Deadpool. You have the full box that has the acrylic tokens, the promo cards, the figure, all that inside one box. Basically, you're buying a deluxe box all in one. I can see why they wouldn't necessarily. I can see how they could do it either way, is do like a deluxe box versus a non-deluxe box, versus having a regular box and then a little tiny accessory pack. But the difference is probably because, if I grab Deadpool box here, so this is just as an example. Here's how thick the Deadpool box is. They could make these a little bit thinner for just one character, but now if you had to have a thick one and a thin one on the shelf, that's going to take up a lot of room, versus having something that's, card sized, extra 3 cards in here, a little figure and a little pack of acrylics. It's not going to be much bigger than this that you hang on the pegs. Just kind of just sort of the aesthetic of where stuff goes. But yeah, so that's what we have for our cards. Again, they'll all fit in their own little containers, little trays with their acrylic tokens. So that is really neat. So then the last thing we wanted to look at were the minifigures. Alright, so last we're going to look at the miniatures, which again are not necessary, and they're mainly for Dice Throne Adventure, if you want to play that, or the Marvel missions. And now the fun thing is you can play them with either. If you don't want to buy the dungeon crawly version of Adventures, and you want more of the open board boss battler that is missions, you can just pick up missions. You can play with everything with that. Now here's one thing I did not personally like, and maybe if they re-release the miniatures as a full box, but although if they're going to singles, I doubt they're ever going to do that, is these are kind of nice little boxes that look really cool with all the characters on them. So if you're just going to store them in here, they look neat on the shelf, versus this is how the Marvel ones and X-Men ones came. Yeah, just plain gross boxes. I can kind of understand the Santa Krampus one, but yeah, it's sort of a downside to that. Now, these guys will not fit, obviously they will not fit into the boxes with each character. So if I took out my standee, obviously he's never going to fit in there. I mean, I could probably try, but just as an example. So like, if you didn't sleeve any of your cards, or if you really push them down, he might lay in there enough that he'll fit. But yeah, I'm hitting his base over here. So yeah, that's kind of the downside, is you're never going to be able to fit them all into a tray. And that's one character. You might be able to fit some, but some of the other ones aren't going to fit. Like, there's no way Treant's ever going to fit in there. Other thing, just a quick point out, is for Dice Throne, we get a little box like this for holding all the standees. So I have all the Season 1 and 2 standees in here, right? And I could keep throwing all the other ones. And there, now it does say for miniatures and others. So standees are supposed to be on the one spot. And the other spot is supposed to be for the miniatures, actually. You could probably fit all the standees even from X-Men in here if you lay them in there nice. Now, again, am I going to get all of these guys in here? No. There's no way I'm going to get all of Season 1, all of Season 2. Maybe if I get lucky, I get Season 1 and 2 in there. But then again, we have, if you're buying everything, you have 4 more for Vanguard, 4 more for Outcasts. Plus, then you also have 1 more for Alchemist at least coming out, so that's at least 5 more you'd have to fit in there. Plus, if you have all the X-Men or Santa and Krampus, so yeah, it's a neat idea, but I don't think you're going to fit them. I'd probably just throw all the standees in here, and I'll probably end up having to find a separate solution for all the miniatures. But let's go ahead and take a look at how these miniatures are. To see again, if you're like, now, currently, if you're ordering them from the website, they have regular and unpainted. Now, I got the painted ones, which are a little bit more expensive, but not actually that much. I think there was like, maybe like a $10 difference for having them painted. But I'm going to assume that all the Marvel ones came painted. You didn't have an option there. Same thing with all the new ones. So I'm going to assume that in the future, they're always just going to come painted unless they offer a special unpainted version on their website. But there they might bundle them together. But I don't think they're going to do like the bundle packs with the cards and the sleeves for unpainted and painted. But yeah, here's our Barbarian. You know, see, I would personally, even if I'm just playing the regular game, I would definitely pull these out and have my character sitting on the board. I think that'd just be kind of a fun little thing. Here's our elf, our thief. I think the paint job is pretty darn good. I do paint myself, but I don't know if I would be able to paint this good, or for some of these, which is why I didn't get the unpainted. Because like here, I probably wouldn't. And, you know, and it's like, I might be able to paint some of this well, but... And it's obviously, it's not like the best ever paint job. There's not like little intricate little things on each one. Like the entire blade is all green. Her gloves are green. Like there's no like lines in the smoke there for the ninja here. But like that's fine. If you wanted to get your own and paint them, or if you wanted to repaint these, you can definitely do that. Here's our moon elf. But I think they look a lot cooler than just having standees out. Oops, our paladin. So here's where I personally have trouble painting, because I use markers instead of fine tips. So getting underneath the armor, like his arms and stuff, would be my problem. You know, like some of these are big enough that I can get around it, but some of them have, yeah, undercoating detail. Here's our Pyromancer. That's kind of neat where the flames on the bottom. And you see there's like bleed effects onto the clothes and that, and it's like, meh. You know, you know, for having something painted versus having just a gray miniature, I'm definitely not going to argue. So here's the monk. And our last one for this, which I don't think he'll fit in my base, is the Treant. Now, I want to just compare some of these quick before we jump to Season 2 to like one of the standees, just to kind of see what the difference is. So they did try and make them somewhat look like their standees, so it's like the same pose as the standee. But yeah, definitely the presence on the table you know, I'm playing around. And I'm going to, end of the video, I'm going to show off, like, what they're going to look like on the board. So we'll kind of get to see that. But, yeah, just kind of want to show off this quick. I'm not going to do this for all of them. But, yeah, there's your Barbarian. We didn't see, like, he has, like, more orangish hair than reddish hair. Or, like, his outfit's more fur-looking, and there it's not really fur-looking. But still, that's not too bad. You didn't have the gems painted on there. But, like, you know, his garbs, they look more like regular cloth than, like, fur in here. But still, like, it's not that big of a deal for me. For someone like me, I guess, you know. Again, someone else you might be pickier yourself, but that is entirely your opinion to have. Alright, so let's put these two back. Let's jump in and look at Season 2. Here's our Archangel, Seraphim. Don't remember exactly what role she is. The Cursed Pirate. Now, this would be one I would be like, they're selling them in other miniatures, or if I could get them like individual, of course, they sell the unpainted in a full set. I would love to get one to repaint her as the Cursed Pirate, give her like a skull face. That would be kind of neat to be able to like switch out when she changes forms. Ideally, in the same sense, they have the villain versions of the Monk, the Gunslinger, and the Barbarian. I wouldn't mind have gotten an unpainted version of each of them to like repaint, is kind of try and follow at least the color scheme as the Fallen ones as much as possible, because it would have been kind of neat just to have them out on the board while you're playing against them. The only downside, though, is I don't think that later on there are any other villains that would have any of those. There's the Witch in the Outcast set. I don't think she technically has a counterpart. I think the Gunslinger in here is a girl, and the one on the Fallen one is a guy, so there's there's obviously a difference there. And then there'd be nothing directly for the Mad King. But that's, you know, that would have been kind of cool as well. If they released miniatures for those other characters, I'd be happy with that. Even the Marvel ones, I'd love if they made some for the bosses, but we'll not worry about that right now. Alright, there's our Samurai. These little toesies peeking out. And the last one, and again, even something like that, that'd be another thing that'd be fun to do, is I know they have the acrylic tokens for some of them. Wouldn't mind like the miniatures for the companions. But it's what it is, right? You can see like some bleeding on their legs and stuff a bit, but and here's another thing for me to look at is compared to this, like again, buying a lot of Kickstarter games or board games that have miniatures, they're always gray. So any color is better than just gray, in my opinion, or tan or whatever color they end up being. So always having color is better than no color. Just because even if it's simple, it still stands out better. Then, Krampus does not want to come over there. Then the other thing is also, I grew up back when HeroClix started, which were some of the first colored miniature games you could buy like right over this retail store. And honestly, these paint jobs are better than any of them are. There's some of them that were like really bad for like bleeding and stuff like that, and some of the colors, they look like the characters, but they had some pretty bad ones too. So at least they're in the fact, because I'm like, these aren't any worse than the ones I used to get way back in the day. Here's Krampus. I mean, obviously you can see some of them compared to how the HeroClix and stuff are now, or if you get miniatures that are painted in some of these other games, they're super fantastic. or heaven forbid, you see some of the stuff people actually paint that are pretty crazy. So there's that. Now, here's where contention comes in. A lot of people had an issue with the Marvel ones. Saying, you know, I just mentioned the HeroClix. Some saying, yeah, they look like the old HeroClix, and they weren't as good. Now, obviously, this lightning effect looks really cool. But there's something wrong with Thor's face. His head looks really small compared to that. But now that's not a painting issue, that's a sculpt issue. Stay open box so I can pull things out. Grab another one. Here we have Doctor Strange. And I don't know if maybe part of the reason people like his tentacles look pretty cool, and part of the reason why some of the paints on here don't look as good is because they're trying to use a lot more brighter colors, where the other ones I feel like they're using darker so they could kind of like, if something bled over a bit, you could kind of be like, oh, it's a shadow or it's shading. And here, since everything's bright, you don't get that as much. I think that might have been some of the issue. Here's Black Panther. But then again, we also getting stuff on here, like he has all these details on his outfit are painted around, which is really cool. But yeah, you see like a big splotch down there on the plant. But like, heck, if I was painting it, I'd be lucky if I got even this good on some of these. To be 100% honest. So yes, I can get where people are mad. These seem very, I'm going to say, amateurishly painted for some. Like, they could have done a better job. But then again, I also feel for their price point of being, I think they're like $45 or $50 a piece. So it's like less than $10 per figure. It's probably not bad. I'm sure if you commission someone to paint these, to paint them really well, they would probably be charging you $100+ per figure. I could be wrong on that price. I'm not for sure. Here's a Loki. Again, his face looks a little weird, but that's not the paint job. That is the miniature. Come on, Spider-Man. Yeah, I know that. I love to just see a regular Spider-Man, Peter Parker. I don't have a problem with Miles. I just, you know, classic Spidey would be classic. You know, it's the whole point of him. There's a Black Widow. So again, the face looks kind of bad, but I think some of it's just also the sculpts weren't. I think they were trying to make them cool. I want to say, I think the difference is the original ones, they were trying to make them very dark colored and realistic, and I think they're trying to make the Marvel ones more cartoony or friendly. And I think that's somewhat which is sort of damage to their thing. They're trying to be like, appeal to like the cinematic universe stuff. Let's make them look more friendly than darker characters. Alright, we got 8 X-Men to look at quick. We'll just jump into these. No, they are neat though because they have the extra little aesthetics on their bases, which is kind of cool. But on the other downside is now they don't really match the original characters as well. Like, I kind of wish they would have. I would have been more happy without all the extra effects on there if they could have just themed them. Stay open, box, you piece of. Alright, here's Storm. Although here in the X-Men more than the Marvel ones, I think the other problem also was that they changed the costumes so much. So they're not even in their iconic costumes, they're in this new design. So like, they kind of had to try and put their powers in here somehow. Otherwise, I think that it would have been a little bit harder to recognize them. And again, especially if you're going off of cinematic stuff. None of these guys had only appeared in the new Marvel stuff. They've been in the old X-Men movies, but even there, up until basically after this, some of this stuff came out until they had the Deadpool, Wolverine stuff. None of them really appeared in comic book accurate costumes. Like here's Jean Grey. I don't understand the red on here. Kind of like a Phoenix picture. That's kind of cool though. I do like the idea of some of the. They tried to incorporate the X into all of their costumes, which is kind of neat. I think that was an interesting choice. I don't know why Wolverine has purple boots on. We got Cyclops. And Cyclops is the lamest of the models because they could have given him like a visor blast, which would look cool. I don't have a problem with the rest of the costume. Again, they incorporated the pouches that he has kind of into the X, going onto the arms. It's kind of neat. And then finally we have Iceman, who just is clear. Alright, so those are all the miniatures. So I'm going to do a quick pause on my end. We're going to take a look at... Oh, I didn't point out Deadpool. We better show Deadpool. We're going to show all of them. And I'll just hold him up quick. Here's Deadpool, of course. If you were part of the campaign, you know, there's the big thing with originally Deadpool was going to be like in a clown outfit. And didn't have his weapons out, and enough people decided, nope, we don't like that. They got kind of the joke of it, but they're like, no, you need Deadpool in his iconic costume. So, alright, I'm going to do a quick pause on my end. I'm going to grab out the tiles for adventure. We can kind of see what the miniatures look like. Alright, so here's a layout for adventure. Now, like, obviously, tiles are supposed to be like flipped over, and you'll flip them, and there might be tokens and stuff on there. But I just kind of wanted to show you like what it's going to look like having some of the miniatures on here. So yeah, there's your miniatures on the board. Oops. As opposed to, and I don't have the standee bases out, of course. I should have prepped this. So as opposed to having a having these standees on there, so they just look a little bit more cool. I mean, are they necessary? Like, can I tell here looking at this which one the Trevenant is? Obviously, you know, again, if you're like, you know, from a different side of the board, obviously that might be a difference, but it's not that big of a deal. You're only gonna have probably up to 4 players on the board. Now, so the only issue I could see with having this is if I have multiple guys on one tile, I'm not going to be able to read whatever's on the tile. Whereas if I have multiple standees, you know, I could put all 4 standees, you know, and have them backed up enough that you could probably still read. But again, it's a very minor thing. It's like, oh, we need to read what that does. Oh, okay, that's what it does. Or how often do you have all 4 players standing on one tile? But again, it's kind of neat. They look really cool on the board. And then the other thing we want to just show off again is the marble one, since that's also one. So here's our marble one. If we're playing with our standees, I'm just going to keep using these guys rather than bringing out the X-Men or Marvel characters. But you have your standees on there. They work just fine. But you can also put your miniatures on here as well. And now this game, you only have 1 person per tile anyhow, so it's not that big of a deal. So again, it's not that big of a deal. It's not blocking any text. They might be sitting on some of the, they might be sitting on like a danger token, which there's the only downside there is, of course, these boards need to be more flat. But if it's sitting on one of the tokens here, a standee, you're still going to be able to see it, whereas a regular guy isn't too bad. I think Treant is kind of a bad example. Yeah, most of you may be able to see them tokens just fine. So yeah, very, very cool for that. I just kind of wanted to show that off on a 5, and I flip back to the other side, and we looked at a boss fight. You know, here's the only kind of downside of this is that, right, I have all these guys fighting a boss, and now the boss looks pretty lame in comparison. Now, what if we have other miniatures or something? Now, for the Marvel one, I think most of the guys are... A couple of the guys are probably in, like, maybe the Marvel Zombie game, or if you were buying the Crisis Protocol, you might be able to find some to fit them. If you don't mind cartoony ones, you could use the Marvel United, but again, they're not going to look nearly the same. So, like, here, I have them white painted because I haven't actually got them. But, like, there's a Mysterio. Like, I could throw a Mysterio up there. I mean, how does he look compared to an X-Man? Like, just as an example. Like, obviously, he's bigger because they're more chibi characters. But, like, I think they're close enough that, at least somewhat, they're maybe not the exact size, but you can always use the Marvel United characters if you have them. Again, they do have some for Marvel Zombie, but a lot of the villains are zombies, so they're not going to definitely fit this theming. Plus, I know they don't have all the characters. Like, they don't have Onslaught or Scar and stuff like that. And again, you might be able to find some characters maybe from some of the Marvel the zombie side games that might work with, might work for the other ones, but I think they're smaller. I have some over here. Yeah, so the problem with zombie side guys is if you're trying to use them as a standee, is they're quite a bit smaller in stature. So I don't think they're going to look as good on there. But again, if you don't want to buy the miniatures, you could probably find a couple of other various things you could use for them. Alright, that's what we have for this Dice Throne. So we looked at the acrylic tokens for adventures, we looked at the card sleeves, and we looked at the miniatures. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. As soon as we get some of the new games come out, we'll definitely do some more videos. See you guys later. Bye.